Hey guys, and welcome back to another video, and this time we're actually going to be having a bit of a preview of the Season 16 PvP weapons. Now, I know we haven't even hit Alpha yet in terms of the public Alpha, but these things have been data mined, and these do appear to be full-on models. And I've got to say, these weapons are looking really interesting in my opinion, and a few of them have definitely got, I think, a lot more going on animation-wise. Anyway, so first of all, we have the Gladiator's Pike. And as you can see, it is a standard enough pike, honestly. It's just made out of that sort of tree style look, and there's definitely some sets of Warlords of Draenor armor which are very much tree based. Now they seem to me to fit in with perhaps the Arakoa or maybe some of the Shadow Moon Valley stuff. But overall, I think this is a nice enough weapon, however, perhaps not as impressive as some of the other ones. So let's move on to the Energy Staff. This one is, I think, similar in what it is, but I like the blue glow that's coming out of things. I'm not really particularly convinced in the top, but I think whatever the hell this thing is, it's pretty cool. I like how it's emanating some energy there. Overall, though, a decent enough weapon, but honestly, the best stuff is still to come. Right, so this is the Gladiator's Greatsword. This thing is awesome, in my opinion. Now, one little thing to note, not symmetrical. Some people aren't going to like that. Personally, I'm okay with it in the case of this weapon, but you definitely need to watch out when you're designing something and foregoing symmetry. Anyway, so the weapon itself, I love how it looks like there's this kind of great beast style thing like worked into the blade. It looks like it flows really well. And when you do think of Warlords of Draenor supposed to be, you know, all savage and brutal, well, this is pretty fitting with the theme. Of course, also the weapon itself, very notched and just, ugh, you don't want to be hit by that thing. And then finally, this little, I nearly said keychain, not a keychain, but this little thingy at the end. I'm not particularly sure what that'll be for, just, you know, stylistically wise, but I think it looks nifty enough. I hope that's well animated, though. I think that would be really important. Okay, so let's move on to the Battle Staff. Now, the first thing you're going to realize is, oh look, this is all animated. Yeah, there's actually a few weapons that are quite, they're definitely more animated than perhaps what we're used to, so this is having a bit of a wiggle. I think it looks pretty cool in this case, the wiggling, but maybe it's just a little bit too much. Still though, I do like how you see a little bit of, okay, it's trying to escape nearly, that's that crystal. It's as if the crystal is just kind of being jammed into this staff against its will. I think that's rather interesting. It's cool enough, I guess. Still though, I think there have been more impressive staves in the game, and I would opt for a Draenor styled one over perhaps that. Alright, so next we have the Gladiator Staff. This is a cool enough weapon. Oh, what are you doing, model viewer? Come on. Don't make me have to restart this video. Ah, crap. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, well, actually, apparently not. It would appear that this is just a little bit bugged in the model viewer at the minute, so you can get a bit of a look of it there, but just do bear in mind, maybe these bugs are indicative of it not being finished, or there being some problems with the item itself. I think it looks okay. It's just maybe a little bit too random at the top for me to really like. It just doesn't look particularly cohesive, and I like cohesion in my weapons. So let's move on to the next one, which is the Bone Grinder. Now, what do I think of this? Well, first of all, I like that as an end of the weapon. It's like there's some sort of magic thing going on there, and that in combination with being hit by the tusks, or, yeah, the horns, whatever. Pretty cool, nifty little weapon, and I think two of those could look really solid on some characters. So overall, that definitely is a win from me. And then next we have the Slicer. Once again, I think the swords are looking great. I think this has got a great profile. I love how just, I don't even know, you don't call that serrated. That like, whatever the hell that is, ultra serration, it looks great. And for a PvP weapon, it's got just the right amount of vicious brutality to make it work. And now there is an eyeball just kind of chilling out at the end there in a little sack. I'm not particularly sure about that. Obviously the eyeball style was done a little bit in patch 5.4 with Garrosh, so that's a thing. But overall, solid enough weapon. I think it's looking pretty decent. And then next we have the Bone Cracker. So similar enough to the other like one-handed mace thing, but yeah, this is something that's definitely going to be more of a subjective thing. Honestly, it seems to me like this is either carved wood or some sort of like a rock with then a crystal kind of like polished up at the top. I'm not particularly convinced by these little outcroppings. Overall, I think maybe just a little bit of a weaker weapon for me. Doesn't perhaps match up with my personal preferences perfectly. And then next we have the Pummeler, which is really kind of the same, but with a slightly different coloring. I do like that white, though. I like how that's textured on there. I think that's pretty cool. Still, maybe not the weapon for me. Okay, so now we have the Spell Blade. I think this looks really, really nice, actually. I'm not particularly sure what theme it's based off in the expansion. It kind of reminds me of some of the Arakoa ones. It's definitely not a Draenor weapon. It's definitely not an Orc one. So I'm thinking Arakoa. Still, it's pretty cool. Maybe Shadow Moon, actually, because if you see these little lights here, there have been some, like, I'm not going to say crop circles, because they're obviously not crop circles, but there have been little engravement thingies in Shadow Moon Valley with those, so this could perhaps be Shadow Moon styled or something like that. Still, though, it's a pretty cool weapon, and it definitely does look like a spell blade. It seems like the main focus of the weapon is this thing, this, like, magic thingy in the middle, not exactly the blade itself. But overall, yeah, I think it's looking pretty solid. And then coming up next, we have the Gavel. I think this is, once again, not particularly amazing, but it definitely does its job. It looks like a Gavel. It looks pretty painful, honestly. And what is this little thing hanging at the back? It's kind of hard to tell. Interestingly enough, though, it never... yeah, if you look at its rotation, it always seems to be the same. Like, it doesn't really rotate with the rest of the weapon. Still, though, Gavel... looking okay, whatever, not really I never played any classes that would use that, so I'm just going to move on to the Mage Blade. Similar to the Spell Blade, but a little bit more, I just think, cooler looking in some ways. I like the serration in the blade, I like this big orb thingy that it's got going on, and I like the thinness as well. I think there's something about a thin blade which is very slicey and something visceral about that idea, and I think sometimes when they go for these ultra giant Buster blades, or Buster Sword style blades, maybe a little bit of that's lost, so I think that's definitely quite a nice weapon. Now then, moving on, we have the Hacker. I think this thing looks really cool. First of all, I like the way that you have the little, not knuckle dusters, whatever, spike thingies for your fist. Only problem is you're never going to get to use them because, well, the blade's up here and they kind of overlap a bit. But if you think about this weapon, it's essentially one large offensive surface. If you go from here to the very end of the blade, and just across that line there, there's nothing but pain. So I think that's an interesting way to go with it. And then, of course, it's got these at the back for whacking people with, and this is the front. It is full of blades, I suppose, and yeah, it certainly does fit the bill for me. And next, we have the Render. This is a fist weapon. I think it looks really cool, actually. I love this fire. I think it's pretty cool the way it looks like your fists are on fire. That's really badass. Then you've got these, I guess the slicey bits, also known as the edges of the blade. I like the texturing on them. I think it looks really, really well. And of course, we'll be zoomed out a little bit when these are actually on characters. But for the sake of this video, I just wanted to show them to people close up, because I think that's maybe more valuable. Okay, so then moving on, we have the Cleaver. So really that's similar to the Hacker, but obviously a bit of a recolor. So we can skip on ahead to the Shanker. This is what the rogues are going to be using. Once again, I like the way you can punch with it, I like the way you can slice with it, and I like the way you can, I guess, kind of hack with the little thing there. I think that's pretty cool. Then there's this kind of mix of this just being, is that a jawbone with like some sort of fang in the end? I'm not too sure what I think about the mix. It's certainly, it's different. Personally, I would prefer just one cohesive weapon instead of something that looks like it's been patched together, but I know that's the kind of patched together look is something that other people are really going to like. Okay, then next we have the Quick Blade, which is really similar to the other blade that we saw. It looks decent enough, so yeah, solid weapon. Now, moving on, this is the Longbow. So it's got a bit of a spidery look going on to it, and I think that, see, could we put this one in a character? Let's try putting you in a Blood Elf. Yeah. Does it go? Yeah, it kind of does go on. It's a different weapon. Actually, no, let's just put it onto a human, because, wow, look at that face. Yeah, this is a weird weapon, actually. I, personally, perhaps not my thing, but there are some people who are just going to completely dig this, and fair enough to them. The level of animation, though, on the weapon is definitely, well, it's obviously a lot more than in other weapons, so that's definitely going to appeal to some people, and I think that that's an interesting precedent to set going forward, and it could allow for some extremely cool looking weapons. Alright, then next we have this, which is the baton. It looks pretty cool, actually. I like it. And this whole thing going on at the end with the floating crystals, once again, I like that idea. I think it's pretty cool, and I like the way it's a little bit less wiggly, though I know some people will have liked the wiggling from the previous staff that we saw. By the way, just if you're wondering, these are item level 660, and there's really no point in me showing you stats at the minute, because this is alpha information. Everything could change. Still though, pretty damn nice weapon. And of course then we have the touch of whatever, forget the exact name, but you know, same model, we kind of know what's going on there, so let's skip on ahead to this, which is the heavy crossbow. And it's a 4-pronged crossbow, though apparently 2 of the string, or the stringy bolt thingies are missing. Still though, what do I think of this weapon? Well, perhaps I won't go with any of the transmogs that I like to roll with, but I think that it is pretty cool. I like the way there's 4 limbs to it. It looks powerful. I like this kind of square, or not square, kind of like X formation thingy that's going on there. I think overall it's just really quite appealing looking. Definitely a nice weapon. I also just like the profile of this sort of side, like the main body of the weapon. I think that's pretty nice as well. And then finally, let's have a look at the rifle. Now, first of all, this smoke is quite obviously not working right. But when it does work right, you're going to fire from this. Obviously, there'll be kind of like heat or whatever in this, which is why it's glowing a little bit. And then you'll have a smoking gun. I'm sorry, I love that. That's great. I also, for a PvP weapon, like the fact that it's got a blade on it. That's really interesting. And then you'll probably also notice, oh, ammunition. It's back. Okay, that's pretty cool, I'm going to say. Now, I usually roll with a bow, so I'll probably still be using my really simple oak bow that I am transmogged into with my simple transmog. I'll probably show it off tomorrow on the channel, actually. Still, though, I think this is a really cool weapon. Some people are going to love it. And that is the end of the video. That is all of the data mined weapons that we have for Warlords of Draenor. So, the question is, what do you think? Please let me know in the comments. And if you ever are going to leave any feedback for Blizzard, the best thing to do, and they always say this with art, and I guess it's probably right, is instead of saying what they don't like, or like what you don't like about the set, it's better to say what you like, some of the elements that you like, some of the ideas that you like, and I think that's a really important point. And personally, and for me, I like it when sets are designed around a class and not specifically around a raid tier. If they can merge the two, then fine, but sometimes, you know, there's these really kind of like forced-looking bits of armor that just don't fit the class because they're so heavily designed around a raid tier. That's happened before. But anyway, yeah, just bear those things in mind, but certainly I think that there are definitely some highlights here, some lowlights, and of course we need to see this with the full-on armor. There are some armor sets, you'll probably see these in the channel later on today actually, and yeah, that's essentially the situation there. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, I hope you found this stuff useful, and I'll see you next time.